Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious
Treksperts.
And we met each other in St. Louis for an exciting Galaycon where we inaugurated an all-new live panel for the first time, Star Trek at 60, celebrating the final frontier. This was a chance for us to involve you in discussions about this upcoming year as the countdown continues to the 60th anniversary on September 8th. I know
he's giving a countdown.
Somebody out there saying, but in Canada, it's September 7th. I don't care. I love Canada, but September 8th is the anniversary, not September 7th. I'm sorry. You are glorious and free, and I enjoy Canada quite a bit, but the anniversary is September 8th. So to all our Canadian listeners, I'm sorry, but the anniversary is September 8th for us.
I'm not sorry. Not
just
one
the way
damn
it's
bit.
Going to be. Anyway.
Canada.
So we just got back. We got back from Galaycon St. Louis, where we had a rockin' good time. And of course, you know, it's so nice because some of these conventions that we go to, like the last convention, I swear, we have people that follow us around like the Grateful Dead. A bunch of people were telling us how they saw us in Columbus, and they saw us and came to a bunch of different cities to see us, specifically to see us, which is very flattering. And St. Louis was no exception. We had the wonderful Lucy Dalton Lackey, who not only brought brownies, but a wonderful book by Rob Perlman called Search for Spock, a Star Trek book of exploration, a highly illogical search and find parody. It's like Where's Waldo of Star Trek. And it was a lot of fun. And the brownies were great. And we saw Visions of V'ger. No, that's not there was nothing in the brownies. And
nothing in the brownies, but goodness.
And and she shared with us just a really remarkable story about just how much the podcast meant to her. I mean, she took each one of us aside and told us a little bit about what things meant to her, and it was really quite sweet, I must say. And I don't think I'm doing anything wrong by saying that she told us the story of how her mother had passed away, and she was left with the unenviable task of having to clean out her house, and was driving, many miles to Chicago. And the thing that got through it was listening to the podcast. And I thought that was just a very meaningful story. We've heard so many stories like that, and it's really quite wonderful. I mean,
it was lovely for her to share those thoughts and feelings, because it's so good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Lucy was only one of many Treksperts fans. Lucas Hardwick, who we last saw in Columbus last year, longtime listener of the podcast, came by and shared this wonderful book that he just published. It's called Death by Snails, Volume 2, and it's a series of essays he wrote about different movies, a guide for how to watch anything through the art and majesty of film criticism. It's available now on Amazon, and as well as through his own website. And what I absolutely loved was, the first essay. The first essay actually name checks all three of us.
Oh, wow.
Because it is a story about how he was the one who was fascinated about how he felt that Powell and Pressburger's A Matter of Life and Death had been a huge influence on Brannon and Ron for All Good Things, and asked us to check in with Brannon and or Ron to find out if indeed that was the case. And unfortunately, I think we destroyed his world when we relayed to him that Brannon, in fact, had not remotely been influenced by the movie. He was not even familiar with it, had not even seen it.
What is that?
Yeah. But at least we got him an answer. So that was nice.
Full service podcast. We have
Exactly.
questions you can't ask.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it's a terrific book. I read a bunch of essays on the plane coming home, and I highly read before I fell asleep. And it wasn't because of the book. It was because I was on a flight that left. I had to leave at the hotel at 4 a.m. So definitely great seeing them. But this was a really terrific. For those of you who say, "Oh, please knock it off with the food reviews," you're out of luck, because this was a particularly successful culinary adventure, wasn't it, Darren?
It absolutely was. Forgive me. I'm muting my microphone occasionally because I have a very annoying smoke alarm that needs its battery changed, and I can't reach it at the moment. So
I'm surprised your smoke alarm doesn't condition red.
That's right.
You dropped the Star Trek the motion picture, the original klaxon from Star Trek the motion picture.
We had just about the best meal we've had on our many sojourns.
Yes.
We went to a place that Mark found called Citizen Kane's, and we thought it was just the name of the place. But
a pleasure palace, we decreed
in Xanadu. It was
the biggest steak since Noah.
It was this old house in a town called Kirkwood. Surprise!
Yep, you heard right, Kirkwood.
And
would.
Yes,
would.
he would, given any encouragement.
Bill was invited. You were invited.
Yeah,
but he was just tired. He didn't want to come. But that's okay. He missed out on an incredible meal, and it's not hyperbole to say it is one of the best meals we've had on any of our adventures.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have seen how I can put away dinner.
For such a small and diminutive individual, you really put it away.
I could not finish my ribeye. It was so effing good. But the good news is I saved it and I had it.
They're not going to prosecute?
They're not going to prosecute. But that was a great ribeye. I had a salad. I have to tell you, usually we ignore things like the salad. I have to tell you that the damn dinner salad by itself probably would have been enough for me to get on this podcast and rave about it. I've never raved about a salad in my life. And
it had that special dressing with anchovies in it.
Yeah, the Mayfair. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Yeah.
And Landrew, guess what? Darren and I had the fucking filet. And you know what? It was freaking amazing.
It was amazing.
Even though it was a woman's cut.
Yeah. But you know what?
Tell you, tender and juicy. So maybe it was.
We are all man enough to enjoy a woman's cut, if you know what I mean.
It was so good, and it was charred just perfectly, and just everything was prepared to perfection. And to make things even better, they had not one but two baked potatoes, one for Darren, one for me. We didn't have to share.
We have eaten animal flesh, and we have enjoyed it.
I cannot believe we've never used that reference in all the time we've been talking about our steak restaurants.
And yet here it is now.
Oh, you know, I sent an email. I sent an email to Frakes to say, we're sorry you weren't able to make it to the convention that because he's working. And we said, you know, we really went to a great place. We missed you. He said, yeah, I saw on Instagram. Nice. He said, nice guys. Thanks a lot. Rub it in.
You know what? He is always invited when he's around.
That's right.
If he's not around, he can't be invited.
That's exactly.
We're always welcome. So
that's the next generation quote.
Yeah. Well, what do you know? It's like we're a Star Trek podcast. Holy crap.
So, but I have to say, I mean, you know, we glossed over the fact that the reason I picked this place was about 20 minutes out of St. Louis. So it was, you know, we had to take an Uber. It was a hike, but I picked it because it was Citizen Kane. Now, I thought that just meant it was called Citizen Kane. Maybe the guy who owned it was named Kane and thought it would be clever to call it Citizen Kane. I mean, it's like a Kane's chicken finger place. It's not based on Citizen Kane. So I didn't think
that actually a Buck Rogers reference.
Yeah, right. Killer Canes. So I didn't think it would actually be, you know, themed. But when we arrive, there's a rosebud on the sign outside, and we walk in, and there's a silhouette of Kane holding the snow globe. And we go in there, one sheets from Citizen Kane. There's the famous Inquirer thing. I mean, there's all this Citizen Kane stuff. And then, well, of course, I had to ask
photos.
inquisitive minds want to know, I asked the waiter what the history was, and he explained that the owner of the restaurant, who used to be I guess on the team football, they called him Citizen Kane. Track. Thank you. You were listening. So Citizen Kane, I was just testing you. So he was Citizen Kane, but he loved Citizen Kane. He loved the movie. So he decided when he started the restaurant that he would theme it after Citizen Kane. And it was a great evening. We were joined by our good friend Mike Broder from Galaycon and his and Julia, who was just terrific. And it was just such a nice evening. And then, of course, we rubbed it in with Dana Gould, who was supposed to come, but had to bow out because he had other obligations at the convention. And unfortunately, he ended up coming the next night, which was not nearly as good.
Yeah. But it was fun. But listen, the main thing that I completely forgot about when we were there on October 10th, which, as it turns out, was the 40th anniversary of the death of Orson Welles.
Yeah, that was
crazy.
And
we celebrated it by eating too much.
We did. we celebrated as he would have. And it was it was such a sort of a synchronistic moment for me when I realized it. So,
by the way, I don't know if it was Eddie Egan or Steve Asbell or who, somebody texted me and said, guys, you should do for the holiday specials this year the Treksperts top 10 restaurants.
You're not going to do that.
No, we're not going to do that. We're not.
That is a funny idea.
But I will tell you, I think the 3 best steak restaurants in no particular order were Citizen Kane, Perry's in Austin, and Peter Luger's in Vegas. Those are my 3 favorites.
Hard agree.
Yeah. So really, really, really special. Really good. And you vegetarians are out of luck. But the next day we went to, because everything in St. Louis is apparently haunted. It's like the world's biggest Scooby-Doo episode. I mean, it's crazy.
Maybe we would have gotten away with it too.
But I'd be for you meddling Treksperts.
Yeah.
So we went to the Lemp Mansion. The Lemp Mansion, not to be confused with Lemp Biscuit, is is supposedly haunted bed and breakfast. Not bed and breakfast. It's bigger than a bed and breakfast.
It's a hotel.
It's it's smaller than the hotel.
It's like a
but bigger than a breadbasket. And it's supposedly haunted. They have a restaurant dining room, it looks like the Haunted Mansion at Disney. Yeah. And the food was not anything to write home about. It wasn't great, but the ambience was really nice. The company was great. We had a delightful time, and it was it was a wedding going on, and they were playing a lot of 90s music, and
the Ghosts were doing karaoke. It was pretty great.
And then they had this great museum apparently in the vault, and they said, "Oh, you got to check out the museum in the vault." So we're all going to the vault. The vault was closed. It was so they told us to go into the vault, but then it was already closed.
Well, that was kind of our fault because we were screwing around, having conversations.
Yeah, we were having a nice conversation with our fellows.
Well, we had we had a lot of panels during the weekend, and most of them went into the late hours, so we had to make our reservations late. So that's what happens.
Yeah. No, it is true that we got there late because we had to have bizarre. We'll be sharing a lot of those panels with you over the next couple of weeks. And of course, if you haven't seen us yet this year, your last chance will be to catch us at GalaxyCon Columbus, which is one of the really terrific shows that GalaxyCon does. Amazing guest list. We'll be there. We'll be doing a lot of panels, and we hope you'll join us. I mean, first weekend in December. I think we had some of our best panels at this show. Really great. And not one Trek panel other than the one that we're going to share with you today, which is our tribute to the 60th anniversary. And this is a panel that we're going to do throughout the year, because you'll see we look at some of the best episodes over 60 years of Star Trek, but we turn the microphones on you to talk about how do you vote and see what you think. Well, not you specifically, but you in the audience. So I think it's a fascinating conversation. So each city we go to, it'll be different people with different picks. So, we'll also make sure we have different videos to show as well, so that it'll, each city will be a new experience as we count down to the 60th anniversary. For those of you who follow us everywhere.
For those of you who celebrate.
Well, I told you, it's like we are. We're like the grateful Spocks or something. People just follow us from city to city. Which is nice. We're not, but it's nice. It's nice. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was somebody. I said, I thought you lived in some other. They said, yeah, but I came out here to see you guys. So that was really nice.
It's really nice.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So we're going to share this panel with you, which is just a terrific look at Star Trek and why at 60 it's so great, which was interesting because it came on the heels of a panel we had done earlier in the week, I guess on Friday, with a bunch of really talented comic book artists. But at one point, one of the women on the panel said to someone else when she heard that she was doing a TOS comic, Red Shirts, she said, "Oh, was it hard to go back and watch the original series, because it's so old and, primitive? And it took a great deal of restraint to keep me from going over the table and strangling Scotty and Wolf in the Fold. Like the lights would have gone off and she would have been dead." And I'm like, I don't remember. But, but fortunately, I cooler heads prevailed. I think Darren held me back.
No, Darren wasn't there, but I held you back.
Oh, it was you. You held me back. That's right. Darren was not there. Darren knew what was going down.
I held you back with psychic power.
That's right. But we actually divided and conquered. We had so many panels, so we were all doing different panels throughout the weekend, and it was a ton of fun. Like I said, we'll be sharing them on Trekspert and Deck 78. We have a great panel coming up with the cast of the Clone Wars, which was really wonderful. Ashley and I did it, and then Darren and I got to sit down with the cast of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the great James Marsters and Charisma Carpenter, and
not just the cast of Buffy the Vampire Slayer; they're also the cast of Angel.
That's true. Good point. And I've known.
But who are we kidding? They're the same show, just different things.
No, they're completely different shows. Actually, they're completely different. It's like saying Next Generation and Deep Space Nine are the same show, not remotely.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's like saying the Inglorious Treksperts and Deck 78 are completely different.
Well, those shows are pretty much similar. Except that we talk about things that are Star Trek, but it's pretty much the same show. Unlike Trekspert's Briefing Room, which is an entirely different podcast.
Altogether.
Anyway, I think this is a terrific panel. We'll be interested in hearing what you want to say. And if you want to weigh in, because we ask the audience a lot of questions, you can, contribute the conversation on social at our usual social channels, and Inglorious Trek and Inglorious Treksperts. And you can email us at trekspertsplus@gmail.com. We've been getting a lot of letters and emails and posts, and even on the Spotify, you can respond to what you thought of this episode and post. So I think it's gonna be time for a mailbag soon, because there's a lot to share. And one of the most gratifying things is we've been getting a lot, I don't know why, a lot of emails from people saying, "I never knew about your podcast. I recently discovered it, and I've gone back to the beginning and have been listening to it and just love it." And that's really nice, because it's good to know that we don't have to record new episodes. You'll just listen to the old ones.
Well, there's plenty to listen to.
So when we do retire, or when I retire, at least you have all these episodes to listen to. So, but I'm not retiring anytime soon. We're definitely going to get through the 60th anniversary. And then next year is the 50th anniversary of Star Wars and the anniversary of Next Generation. So I think I got to stick around for that. Anyway, on that note, we're going to break for a short commercial break. We'll be back with the panel, and then the three of us will be back with a few closing thoughts. So please stay tuned.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Big news. Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. One order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection and a welcome offer of 200,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
This episode is brought to you by Nature's Bounty. Nature's Bounty believes your body is brilliant, naturally designed to thrive, inside and out. For those always looking for new ways to support your health from head to heels, Nature's Bounty has a range of over 400 vitamins and supplements born from 50 years of trust and care. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature. Visit naturesbounty.com to learn more.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome in.
So we're trying something new, which is, well, yeah, I mean, because we're doing 60 years of Star Trek. The countdown.
That's how long this panel's going to be.
We're on a countdown to detonation because September 8th, next year, 2026, is going to be the 60th birthday of Star Trek. And so we're going to use this next year to, sort of count down. And this is the first time we're doing the 60th anniversary tribute, because now we're in the,
the final stretch.
The final stretch. And so we thought it'd be fun to talk about some of our favorite episodes, but also hear some of your favorite episodes and what Star Trek means to you. A lot of people have theories about it, and you see, a lot of interviews, it was a family that I didn't have growing up, or it spoke to me. I saw it myself reflected back, or, this character who was repressing all this emotion, who actually had all this emotion bubbling underneath the surface, all these different stories. So
it was the only show they ran in the gutter.
But the great thing about Star Trek is it's so elastic. I mean, we started by showing all these really kitschy, great things, most of which feature Bill. And he's so wonderful. That Seven parody, which was made for the MTV Movie Awards the year that Seven came out, is just brilliant. I mean, it's just, he's playing Kirk and TJ Hooker and the host of Rescue 911, as John Doe. And it's just so much fun. And of course, the old vintage Mego commercials. And we brought some more stuff with us that we want to show from the Inglorious Treksperts archives. This next thing we want to show you is something that we played in Star Trek Las Vegas, and none of us had watched it before we played it. Don't worry, it's not like some X-rated Star Wars porno or something. Star Trek porno.
The disappointment is palpable out here.
It shows you how the studio sometimes completely misunderstands the franchise, and what it is a montage of a bunch of different Star Trek shows for home video. It's cut to, I think it's Ride of the Valkyries, if I remember.
Yeah.
And it's all action. There's literally none of the great character moments, the great dialogue. And what we've learned, obviously, is that sometimes it's the smallest episodes that are, the best remembered. With Next Generation, it's something like Family, right? What a wonderful episode that followed up the spectacle of Best of Both Worlds. And
of course, other people hate Family. Not me, but
yeah, do they? I don't know. I don't know anybody.
There's a bunch of people out there that say, "Oh my God!"
But those people can get stuffed because that's what families do. We stuff.
But Family is such a special episode, don't you think? Because of course, it shows the repercussions of what happened with the Borg, and Picard sort of being forced to face his trauma, as they say now. And Jeremy Kemp plays his brother, and then you also have Samantha Eggar, who plays his sister-in-law, and of course then it has that beautiful ending where you see his nephew who's looking up at the stars, and you think one day
he's going to die in a fire.
Well, no, that's not, that wasn't what I was thinking at the time. Apparently, some other people thought differently.
Very gentle.
Very gentle.
But it looked as though he was going to eventually be a starship captain and follow in the beat, literally the next generation.
Right.
And it was not to be.
No, he was flammable.
Oh, but by the way, I'm Mark A. Altman from Inglorious Treksperts. This is my co-host, the great DAREN DOCHTERMAN, and Ashley Edward Miller.
Hello.
So I guess you could consider that the teaser, and that was the main credits.
Right.
That was weird.
I just realized we never introduced ourselves.
They're here. I mean, I assumed that they knew.
It's the height of hubris to come on stage and not introduce yourself and just be like, well, they know who we are. So anyway, I apologize for that. But
raise your hand if you did not know who the hell we were. Okay, just the one guy. We're good.
Get out. No,
Fine.
There's
Nice to meet you, sir.
There's the idiot who asked Charisma Carpenter about how she feels about Diane Keaton passing away.
Oh, good job.
Before she knew that Diane Keaton had passed away. Good job, moderator, whoever you were,
Mark.
idiot. So, Ashley,
Oh no, did you guys not know? Oh, okay, good. Because I thought you did it again.
No, because now it's like at least it's 2 or 3 hours later. At the time, it was about 20 minutes. So anyway, so Ashley, I want to ask you because it just celebrated an anniversary. Another one of these small, beautiful episodes that's among Star Trek's finest, The Visitor.
Oh yeah, man. The Visitor was an episode that just sort of snuck up on you. I mean, you watch the trailer for that from the week before, and you don't know what you're getting into. It looks like another episode where somebody is, phasing in and out of a space-time continuum. And then you tune into that episode, and Tony Todd just wrecks you for an hour. Avery Brooks just wrecks you, and it's one of those stories that manages to deliver at the time that I watched it when I was young and I had my whole and the world was an open book, and then delivers again, like as a dad looking back. It's so well written, it's so well acted, it's just so well done on every level, and it's not a big action piece.
It means as much to us, I think, as fathers to sons, as like Sub Rosa is to women who love to watch Beverly have a romance with Ronan the Sex Ghost.
That's right.
So anyway, I think let's take a look, because this again shows, I think, how the marketing department maybe misunderstands what we all love about Star Trek. So let's take a look.
I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Enterprise.
Captain James Kirk.
I'm Commander Benjamin Sisko. I offer my services as science officer. McCoy here.
Scott here, Doctor.
This is Commander Riker. There's something you need to know.
Relax.
Good idea. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Welcome aboard.
Adventure doesn't get any bigger than this. Over 300 adventures on video cassette are waiting to be discovered right in your living room.
There's a fundamental misunderstanding about what makes Star Trek so special. Darren, what does make Star Trek so special in your opinion?
Star Trek is special mostly because of the characters and how they interact, and how even though they represent more advanced humans, they still have the same foibles and weaknesses that modern people do. And I speak of modern as today and in the 60s. It's the relationships and the problem solving that the characters go through that make it worthwhile, that give us an example of how to deal with friendship, with love, with all sorts of things that the surrounding environment of the 23rd century is just the encasement of the real human interactions that go on.
What do you think? Same question to you, Ashley. What about Star Trek? He spoke to you as, we're in our 8th season of our podcast now. I mean, that's a lot of episodes.
It's a whole lot of seasoning.
That means you really have to love this to do what you do. And what is it about Star Trek that you keep coming back to this place again?
So I got two answers to this question. The first, just to revise and extend the remarks from the great senator from DOCHTERMAN. I think that's.
I'll yield the floor.
Thank you. I think all of that is true, But I think what ultimately set Star Trek apart, maybe this is true for me, given how old I was when I quote unquote discovered it. There had been nothing like Star Trek before. The concept of the character or the team or all of those things, those weren't new ideas. But how they were presented, the context in which they were presented as a work of science fiction, Star Trek evolved the genre beyond just, crappy sets and monsters and action and silliness and shtick. I mean, it occasionally had its share of it, but so what, man? Like
But what of Lazarus?
What of Lazarus? Right.
To be honest, actually, Gunsmoke came the closest.
But Gunsmoke wasn't science fiction, right? I mean, you're right.
No, but
right.
I'm just talking about structurally and how the show worked.
Sure, absolutely. But the reason why I think we talk about Star Trek differently than we talk about other science fiction shows is because it all comes from that tree. It was the originator. And for me, when I was a little kid, what I dug about it was there was nothing else like it. I found, and I was a little geek, I was a little nerd. I know you can't imagine that looking at me. But I didn't dig stuff like Lost in Space, man. Like that didn't do it for me. There wasn't anything in it. And the thing that I loved about Star Trek, about those characters, was that I believed that they lived in that world. I believed in Captain Kirk in the same way that I believed in Batman, and I believed in Superman, that I believed in all of those people and the world they inhabited in a very specific way. And I wanted to live in that world with them because it seemed like a kind of world you could live in.
So it's aspirational.
It's aspirational.
Right. So I want to ask you, Darren, because he's talking about the aspirational nature of Star Trek. But what was it like? Because not everybody here can necessarily relate. There was this period in which Star Trek sort of found its popularity in the 70s, but it also was unimaginable that Star Trek would ever come back.
Right.
And what that period was like, and then what it was like to find out that, in fact, it was going to come back.
Well, it was, like you said, it was a very delicate time. And Star Trek had just started running in syndication. And so it was on every day. In the New York area, it was on like 6 o'clock on Channel 11. And it was on every weekday, and it was like clockwork. And it was a constant sort of stream of goodness every week. And it sort of trained us to not only memorize all the episodes, but get us used to it being there and in that only form. But then around the time, right after Star Wars came out, there began to be buzz about them, attempting to make a movie about it, about Star Trek. And this was sort of, nothing like that had ever happened before. No one had ever, taken a TV show and cast with the same actors, attempted to make a movie of it, like a big Hollywood movie. Of course, the Batman show, in the first season, they came out with a movie, but that was produced at exactly the same time.
Yeah, concurrently with the production of the TV show.
But this was, 8 to 10 years later. So it was really strange. You didn't really know what to believe. Read Starlog every month and see what the updates were. But it was this mysterious thing, and what was it going to be like?
It's funny because they say a cat has 9 lives, but Star Trek has really had more than that when you think of all the times where it seemed like it was over, whether it was after the original series or when the movies, after Star Trek V or after, certainly after Enterprise. And it just keeps coming back. You were going to say something.
Oh yeah, I mean it's funny because I was thinking about that time scale, man. All right, I want you to imagine it this way, and this is really getting to, Star Trek goes off the air, and then comes back as a movie. In the intervening time, there was all the conversation and pre-production on the Star Trek Phase 2 series and all this other shit. Okay, but the time difference, that delta is at worst, it's 10 years, right? Like 10 years from release to release. Put your thinking caps on, kids. That would be like a show going off the air in 2015 and the movie coming out this year. Right. And when you think of it that way, it doesn't really feel like any time at all. Even though when we were kids, it felt like it was forever. Because I think it was so unprecedented.
You're thinking about it from an adult's perception of time.
Right, exactly.
Which is much faster than a kid's.
Right, because as we get older, we go faster or something like that. No, we go a lot slower, but time seems to go faster. But just the perspective on that. Like, and you think about how Hollywood moves. Hollywood moves slowly until it decides to move quickly, right? And then sometimes it moves too quickly. And I think that Star Trek was a product of that. But, once Star Trek became a monster in syndication, I mean, we look back, it's everything is obvious in retrospect. Somebody was going to do something with that because there was money to be made in it. And then the fact that it came into being and evolved so quickly is pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And speaking of evolving, let's take a look. This is from 1978, before the 79 release of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. It's Hugh Downs from 2020, sort of with an early preview of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And it's so interesting to see a network show sort of covering the arrival of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, because regardless of what you think, it was a huge event. It was a huge event when it opened on December 7th, 1979. So let's take a look at that rare clip.
No new episodes were being made, but Star Trek continued to spark a creative appetite. Trekkies published their own fan magazines called fanzines, with fans creating their own scripts, their own drawings, complete descriptions of gadgetry, and their own embellishments of Star Trek lore. They formed clubs, traded Star Trek products, and in 1973, the first Trekkie convention was organized by Joan Winston.
The very first Star Trek convention was a fluke. We expected maybe 300 people, and we got 3,600, and it blew our minds. And that showed us how much Star Trek meant to so many people.
One appeal of the conventions was meeting the actors who played their heroes.
I tell you that the Klingons have changed in appearance somewhat. They have an enormous ridge going up right across their head. Looks like a lot of warts all together, and I blame that on the tribbles that I sent over to them.
If all this talk of Klingons and tribbles makes you feel that you've been hanging around the wrong end of the galaxy, you could catch up fast by doing what these folks did. Watching all 79 Star Trek episodes and remembering every last detail.
Where was the planet killer headed when the Enterprise intercepted it?
Don White was headed right through the most densely populated part of the galaxy. I can't tell you where, but I know that for sure.
Trekkie mania flourishes nationwide. A Los Angeles housewife, B. Jo Trimble, blotted out her living room picture window with a painted Trekkie Christmas message. Mrs. Trimble might be the foremost Trekkie of them all, rallying letter-writing campaigns to save the show and to rename the U.S. Space Shuttle.
We started the campaign to get it named the Enterprise, and it succeeded. All of the letters went in to President Ford, and in a sort of surprise move, he named the shuttlecraft Enterprise instead of the name that was chosen.
At rollout ceremonies for the space shuttle, instead of hearing America the Beautiful, the crowd listened to the theme from Star Trek. Outer space has its dangers.
How's the radar look?
But some Trekkies from West Virginia patrol interstate highways. In a make-believe identification with the crew of Captain Kirk, they hunt the hated Klingons from their own Trek truck.
Going into the warp drive. Stand by to fire.
200 hours went into outfitting this truck.
Ready? Fire phases. Destroyed.
And many a motorist has been unknowingly disintegrated.
Well, we were lucky, Captain, this time. No casualties.
Despite the unflagging enthusiasm of Star Trek, Paramount wasn't sure it would make a popular movie. But then came Star Wars and Close Encounters, revealing a huge market for cinematic science fiction. The studio put an end to 8 years of vacillation and went ahead with the movie.
I felt at that point that certainly I would not want to see the movie done without Spock, and I would not want to see anybody else play him.
I've been monitoring your communications with Starfleet Command, Captain. I offer my services as science officer.
Gene Roddenberry wanted his starship and special effects to be realistic enough to promote the idea that space travel is part of our future. Graphics designer Lee Cole consulted several scientists before she designed the starship's bridge.
I was so shocked at what we actually have at present. It was hard to even keep up with the present, let alone go into the future. A lot of this is very pretty, but it comes from interesting sources, like all these monitor screens. This is actual experimental color computer graphics readouts, and these charts and graphs you see undulating.
Dock control reports ready, sir.
Take us out.
In the middle and late 70s, America's fascination with the actual exploration of space went into decline, and yet popular interest in science fiction has never been greater.
Mr. Sulu, ahead warp 1.
Warp 1, sir.
Heading, sir?
Out there. That away.
The years have been kind. That was a short decade. We'll be right back.
So
thanks you.
So Darren, what's so interesting to me, at least, I mean, this is a movie at what, you were probably 9 or 10 years old when you saw it.
12.
12. You were
Yeah.
12. Okay. And then many years later, when the director's edition was produced, you were producer and visual effects supervisor on that. What was that like for you, the inner fan, suddenly to find yourself working on this movie that meant so much to you?
Oh my God, it was a dream come true. Because, when I saw it for the first time, I had already read the novel that Gene Roddenberry wrote the week before. And I watched the movie. I loved it, even with all its faults. I saw it maybe 4 or 5 times during its first run, and it permeated my psyche so much that when the idea of approaching Robert Wise to have that 3 extra months of post-production to finish the film happened, it was just an amazing opportunity, and I felt it was destiny that I should help with this. And it was just an incredible, the first time around back in 1999 and 2000 when we did it, was, basically stringing things together with spit and baling wire to try to make things work on video. And then 21 years later, when we were given the opportunity to return and do a 4K film resolution version, we were able to amp it up just a little more. And it's such a wonderful part of my life and my career that, I wouldn't trade it for anything, because I was destined to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, Ashley, for you were so inspired by Star Trek, and long before you wrote Thor and X-Men First Class, you were a writer on Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda, which may not be the top of your resume, but still, it must have meant so much for you to break in the industry and working on a show that has that imprimatur.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I mean, the so many emotions about that, but that also felt like destiny.
Or density.
A man has to know his own density, which I think was actually a line on the show. I might have written that, but anyway, no, it was really quite something because it was a meeting of things. It was the Gene Roddenberry of it all. It was showrun by a Deep Space Nine alumni who
Robert Hewitt
Wolf, who I just thought was terrific. It was a chance to tell those kinds of stories at a time when it didn't seem like, unless you were doing Voyager actually at that point, like Voyager was the only Trek that was on. Enterprise hadn't quite come out yet when we started. It was a hell of an opportunity. And, meeting Majel was weird for me. You know what I mean? It's like going to the Roddenberry house. That was odd. That was cognitive dissonance of just to an unbelievable degree, because it suddenly took all of these things that felt so distant and removed from my life and suddenly made them very, very real and very present. And I'll never forget Majel yelling at my writing partner to shut up and watch The Magician.
Shut up and watch The Magician.
There was a magician at the Halloween party, and Zach was just babbling, and Majel turns to him and goes, "Watch the show."
She paid a lot of money for that magician.
Yes, she did, man.
It's so funny. I think we were at the same parties before we knew each other at the Roddenberrys.
We probably
just love that. And I want to ask you guys, because I do want to then get feedback from the audience. A favorite, when we look at the 60 years of, an episode that means so much to you, but let's not hear City on the Edge of Forever or Balance of Terror or Yesterday's Enterprise. Like go a little deeper, but an episode that, is in your top 60 episodes that speaks to you and why.
Top 60.
I don't want the 60 episodes. I want one of the top 60.
I probably have to say the first one that I remember watching. Which was The Devil in the Dark. And I remember it because on that night that it was on, my mom had made this Elio's frozen pizza. And coming out of the oven, it looked exactly like a Horta. And I'm looking at the TV, I'm looking at the pizza, and I'm thinking, this is interesting. But, obviously I got involved in the story, and it was such a great morality tale about, understanding who we're dealing with in space, and that the only conflict we have is because we can't communicate correctly. And I really love it. And of course, it's one of the favorite episodes of the original show. And as we found out later, this was an important moment for Bill Shatner, too, because his father had died during the production of that episode. And he was very emotionally distraught, and they asked if he wanted to, leave early and go down to Florida to deal with the situation. And he said, "No, let's finish out the day." And he worked through it, and when he came back, he wanted everyone to know that he was okay again. So he started joking. And this was the scene where Nimoy was doing the mind meld with the Horta, and he was yelling, "Pain, pain!" And Shatner said, "Get that man an aspirin." And he really offended Leonard Nimoy. And apparently this bad blood kept on for a couple of weeks after that, because it was a trying time.
He really wanted Tylenol.
He really wanted Tylenol, and it hadn't been discovered yet. So I love that episode because it was written just because the guy Janos Prohaska had made this costume for no reason at all, other than, well, maybe they can hire me. And so he brought it to the lot, and I think Bob Justman saw it, and Gene Kuhn saw it, and Gene Kuhn said, let me let me see what I can do with this. And over the weekend, he wrote Devil in the Dark.
Which is why we find the imagination of the original show so infectious. And it's such a great glimpse of the creative process. The Devil in the Dark is such a great example of what the original Star Trek did so well, which is, Gene Kuhn sees this crazy rolling pizza and says, I know just what to do with it, writes a script over a weekend, and it's one of the great Star Trek episodes of all time. And that's what was, when everybody stands on the shoulder of giants, those were the giants that they were standing on those shoulders of. What about you, Ashley? What's an episode, not, that's necessarily considered, on everyone's top 10 list, but something that you point to as being in that top 60?
Wow, man. Original series or any?
No, any series. 60 years of Star Trek. Anything but Starfleet Academy.
That was exactly where I was going. Because nothing says Star Trek like a Jem'Hadar Klingon hybrid. Man. Okay, I'll tell you. Here's my little nominee, which is from Deep Space Nine, Hard Time. That was an episode that really snuck up on me. It shouldn't have. There's a reason why they kept going back to Colomini, because the guy can act like a mofo. And that was definitely I wouldn't call it a bravura performance, because it was actually very small, and it was very subtle, and it was very sad. It's a guy who's stuck in prison for decades and, has one friend in his whole life. And then, spoiler alert, and it destroys you. But the reason why it stands out to me is because it managed to execute that twist at the end while letting it be Star Trek, because the moral of the story was not that being a good man is always about doing the right thing. Being a good man sometimes means when you do the wrong thing, you understand and you regret and you resolve to be better.
Okay, so which is the worst prison? The Hard Time VR experiencing 30 years in the blink of an eye.
Which sounds like the worst escape room ever.
Or Peacemaker being stranded on Salvation.
Boy, spoiler alert, kids. Yeah, man, I'm gonna go with Hard Time. Feels like a much worse prison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
You think Charles Bronson would have been good in that episode?
Charlie Bronson.
I think he would have broken out of the VR, and he would have been, he'd be digging tunnels. Okay. If you want to go to the mic, we'd love to hear this is top 60 episodes, and you're allowed to mention the classics. I just wanted them to go a little deeper.
No, you can't mention the classics. If you mention a classic, we're kicking you out.
But what's an episode that really you love, and how does it speak to you?
Here we go. There we go. I'm trying to remember the name. In the Pale Moonlight, DS9, Avery Brooks. That was basically a whole therapy session for him, and his talking to the log. Basically, he's just using the log as his trying to figure out all the events that was going on. That episode stood up for me because I was watching DS9 one of my freshman year in college while I was just having something in the background while I was studying sometimes. I remember in that episode, that was like a huge episode, like getting me introspective, and I guess like question for you all, if that's all right. Do you have a specific episode in mind that kind of gives you like want to go into introspective how you would handle that situation? Because as you said earlier, it is a very character-driven show throughout every series, and I was wondering if you have one specifically in mind how you would handle it, kind of like how Cisco was in that episode, and how it's
that's
trying to
interesting.
Basically, I can live with it.
Yeah, the episode, of course, that he's talking about is in the Pale Moonlight from Deep Space Nine. Probably, if not the best episode of Deep Space Nine. It's certainly in the top 10 greatest Star Trek episodes ever made, and it really grapples with the issues of morality and ethics and war and struggling with your own conscience. And Avery is just so spectacular. It's funny you mention it because I just watched it again on Pluto the other day, because it's kind of like, we joke that there's like the Godfather and the Jaws test. Like if you're channel surfing and going from channel to channel and Jaws is on, you end up watching it till the end. You can't change the channel. Same thing with the Godfather. in the Pale Moonlight is like that. You know, I can be channel surfing through and end up on Pluto. And it's ridiculous because I own all of them. I don't know why I'm watching Pluto. I just can't help it. So I'm watching Pluto and in the Pale Moonlight's on. And of course I sit there and watch the whole thing. It's such a spectacular episode. Of course, Andy Robinson as Garrick is so brilliant in it. And, you know, just it's also an episode that couldn't have been made on any other Star Trek series, which is another thing that's so great about it. Because when a show is true to its premise, it's really wonderful. You know, it's sort of like Living Witness on Voyager couldn't have been made on any other Star Trek show. So it's great because it's living up to its premise. And, you know, most of the shows don't always do that, but when it does, it's something really special. I mean, to you, what is it, to answer his question, what have you done in that situation?
Well, look, the first thing I'll say is that I think it could have been a Next Generation episode, except that the ending would have been Picard would have figured it out and he would have admitted it and said, now we have to live with the consequences and we're all screwed. And there wouldn't have been consequences because it was the Next Generation, which is fine because that just wasn't that show. As for, and I'll also say this about In the Pale Moonlight, what we lose sight of, it's this whole hindsight. At the time that episode came out, you know, I was very into the whole online Star Trek, you know, flame war community. And it landed with a question mark, very much so, for a lot of people. People didn't know what to make of it because it was so different. There was a little bit of backlash about it. But it's one of those things that, as it sat, I think it gained reputation with age. Unless you were somebody who, like, I think, like us, we sort of saw it for what it was immediately. I think other fans sort of had to come to it in context to go, oh, okay, now I get it. I get what the show is. As for me, I'll say I am not an evolved Starfleet officer. I would have done exactly what Garrick did. I would have done the Garrick plan. Yep, that sounds about like the thing that we need to do, and I can live with it.
It's a fake. It's a fake. So great, and I envy you discovering Deep Space Nine in college. You know, because really, so many issues that it grappled with. You know, leaving so many discussions. I'm sure you had after watching some of these episodes. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, with Tuvix, you know, people still argue, did Janeway do the right thing in what, you know, and it was like, yeah, you know.
I find that prosthetic so distracting.
I mean, did we really need Neelix back? Maybe we should have kept Tuvix. But no, it's a fascinating, you know, sort of moral and ethical question. And that's one of the things that's so fascinating about Star Trek, in that we can keep watching these episodes and keep discussing them and finding new layers. And I think that's something that's really special about Star Trek.
With Tuvix, I would create Tuvix again and kill him.
Or call him Tuvix.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Holographic Tuvix. Is he gonna? No, sorry.
You guys just mentioned the two programs I was going to mention, in the Pale Moonlight and Tuvix, but but what I love about Star Trek is they'll do episodes like that where we can connect to inner struggles. Okay, we all would love to be able to fly a spaceship around there, but we can't really connect to that. But they brought it home into the inner struggle. And those things that you have to fight your own sensibilities to do the right thing. So that's what I would say I love most about it. And Tuvix, I think, is a great example of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I have to say, you know, it's not my favorite episode, but it illuminates what you're saying. You know, the Jekyll and Hyde story of the enemy within is not my favorite Star Trek, but I think that, you know, the whole idea of we need the part of us that is less attractive, you know, like the good Kirk alone can't command without this other, which we, you know, sort of the evil Kirk as it's referred to, but that you need both sides of your personality to really be who you are. And that Kirk without the other part of his identity isn't Captain Kirk. He's something else. And so even though
Captain Archer,
the
actually,
enemy within is not necessarily, you know, to me, you know, a top 10 episode, there's so much to chew on. And of course it has that really cool space dog. So yeah, but Tuvix and In the Pale Moonlight can't go wrong with either of those episodes. So that's great. Hey, is that Patty Hawkins in the audience?
That is Patty.
Oh my God, Patty Hawkins. What you want to answer this question, Patty Hawkins?
So what's great? Like just a couple of favorite episodes that aren't on the usual
usual suspects. Yeah.
Okay, you want to avoid original avoid original
any show.
I will always love Friday's Child because I think it's Scotty's finest hour.
You don't hear that a lot, but that's really interesting.
No, it really is when he's in command and fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I really think it's very rare we got to see him in command. It was very obvious that he loved his job in engineering, but he always showed potential to be an exceptional leader. And I always wanted to see. And when I was working with He Who Must Not Be Named, when I was supposed to write a couple of Star Trek Continues, I was going to do a plot line where McCoy and Kirk were taken off the board. Spock is in command, and Scotty becomes XO. And I wanted to explore their relationship and not be antagonistic. I wanted to show them working exceedingly well together.
Right. It's so interesting that you bring up Friday's Child because it's funny, all the Capellan stuff with Julie Newmar, who I love Julie Newmar. Obviously, I was a Batman fan, but who wasn't a Julie Newmar fan? I discovered at 8 years old. But the thing about that is, it has terrible costumes, weird production values and everything. But the Scotty stuff is really good with the Klingons trying to lure the Enterprise out of range.
Yeah.
And Scotty, like you said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's a really good point. If you're a Scotty fan or just... If you want to see the Scotty of the original series and not the goofball of the movies, that's a perfect example of one of the episodes where you get to see Scotty be real badass, and it has a great score. Speaking of great scores, we got these two giveaways from La La Land that we'll be giving away. I'm not sure what the rules are going to be, but at some point we're going to give them away.
But whatever the rules will be, they will be unfair.
Yeah, that
sounds good.
We'll hand out a Lurpa and an on.
And it's one of my favorite McCoy episodes too. Obviously, when he's doing it with her, it's like, you can't touch me, smack, smack, and he finally slaps her back.
Goo goo gaga.
Yeah, all that fun stuff.
Oochie woochie coochie coo.
Yeah.
I will always love Gamesters of Triskelion.
Really?
No, and here's why. Because Kirk does something that no other of our leaders would do. He puts everything on the line saying, I can beat your champions. I'll bet my ship and my crew and everything else.
And he didn't even have to get drunk. That was the best part.
No. I think is a pure Kirk moment that Picard would have tried to negotiate his way through it. Sisko would have yelled his way through it.
Picard would have died.
Well,
no, Sisko would have done it, and then it would have been like, crap, now we're screwed. Sisko,
but he could live with it.
Sisko would have then gone up with the Anwoon or the whatever it was with the Bat Lad and just killed the providers.
Oh yeah,
one by one. They would have hacked and slashed them. I mean,
it could be also too because who didn't have a crush on Pretty John?
Well, yeah. I shall always remember you, James Kirk. The thing that's so interesting about that episode is, again, it shows the imagination of the original series because the providers, these disembodied brains, are so cool and such a audacious look at an alien species. It's not bumpy noses and foreheads.
To be fair, it's practically a Lost in Space set.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's really cool. The idea that they're these disembodied brains, and that they've lost. Unlike the Telosians, who need humans to be like sort of work, build things for them because they've lost the ability for manual and physical labor. These guys are just like, so evolved to like they just want to toy with people for their own amusement. It's really interesting. And it also really benefits from syndication because at least in New York, when it was on Channel 11, because they had to cut stuff for time, they cut that awful scene with Chekhov and his drill thrall. Which is a terrible scene. And it was always cut from the episode. And it really benefited by not having that scene. And when I finally saw the uncut episode, I'm like, yeah, I prefer the edited version. So...
It was a little forced, and but there was that creepy bit too when the Elvis impersonator looking guy was like, "I've been selected for you, hurrah!" And
that was James Cawley, I think that was.
And and that whole thing of what's going on, and Kirk knows what's going on, but they pushed it as far as they could for TV at that time.
And you also have some good Scotty, Spock, McCoy stuff trying to track them down, right? Where they've disappeared and they think maybe they're dead or they're not dead. Yeah, I mean that's the great thing about even not the greatest Star Trek episodes. There's always really cool stuff in it, even when it doesn't entirely work, unless it's the alternative factor.
Absolutely. We turn it over to these guys have been waiting in line. Yeah, that's
Thank
my
you.
Gavin.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Patty. That's awesome.
One episode. Well, it's not really a great episode, but I like it. It's a taste of Armageddon, and I like the message in it.
It is a great episode.
Because yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, but it's like, you don't hear people talk about it too much, but but anyway, what I like about that episode, and I use this all the time. I mean, you knew where I'm going with this, is not kill today, not kill today, and I still think of that anytime I know I'm about to face some kind of like terrible day, adversity, whatever. I know there's going to be. I think I'm not going to kill today.
I have that exact response with my children all the time.
I need to remember that.
Not
actually,
kill
that's good.
today.
I'm not going to kill today. So that's one. And then I was thinking too. I've been rewatching the original series, and I really enjoy. While Miri is not a great episode, I like that you've got. It's kind of the first time you've got Kirk, Spock, and McCoy on a planet working together to get through this, and it's great to see that chemistry and to see that dynamic.
Hold that thought,
okay?
Because you're possibly going to win this Star Trek soundtrack, Volume 5, the 1701 collection from La La Land. It has on it the scores to Return to Tomorrow, Metamorphosis, Patterns of Force, Is There No Truth, No Beauty, The Empath, and End Title. It's actually a really great album. Now, here's the question. In Miri, what is the greatest stupidest line of dialogue in the history of Star Trek?
Bonk, bonk.
No, I'm sorry. Does anyone else want to take a crack at that? Raise your hand. The stupidest but most awesome line of dialogue from Miri. I told you there's no rules to this game. We are not the providers. There are no Quatlus. There are only soundtracks. Right?
Right, there's several, but I don't know the one you're thinking.
Of course you do. Okay, you ready? Nope. I already was.
Yeah. That too, actually, yeah.
It was, this could be a cure or a beaker full of death.
Okay, all right.
And
yes, that's a good one, yes.
That's good, okay.
Yeah,
that's
thank
fair.
you. I win.
All right.
I win.
He wins it.
Yeah, but you give it to whoever you want now.
Okay, yes.
And then I wanted to mention one other thing, and this one is, I like it because it's a Dr. McCoy episode. For the world is hollow, and I've touched the sky. It's a really slow burn, but I like that it's McCoy and he's dying, and they're
okay. You got a second chance.
Okay.
Who provided the cure for Dr. McCoy and for the world is hollow and I have touched the sky? What was McCoy studying that gave him the cure for his disease?
I'm
more cowbell.
Terrible at this. I'm terrible at the trivia.
It was.
Right.
But what was the alien race that was in the archives? What? No.
The librarians.
Anyone? Fabrini medicine. Okay. There you go. Come on and get the soundtrack. There you go.
Sorry, Lucas.
That was very agile, sir.
Yeah, but I wanted to get back to what you said about Taste of Armageddon. It's so important to understand when we look at these episodes, the time and the context they're made. A lot of people lose this. We did a panel the other day with some of the comic book creators who were wonderful, wonderful panel. But at one point, one of the panelists said, who works on the Strange New World comic, and to one of the other panelists who was working on an original series, was it tough to go back and watch the original show because it's so old and dated? So obviously once the steam receded from my ears, we're all big enough to take a few insults. I explained, and I would explain this. You have to understand what's so great about Taste of Armageddon. It's being made during the height of the escalation of the Vietnam War, and Walter Cronkite is on TV every day talking about how many people have died in this police action, and the loss of life, which is just staggering and seemingly pointless. And Taste of Armageddon is basically dealing with that through a sci-fi metaphor. People stepping into disintegration chambers and just being killed, and not, to erase the technology or the things. They're
just numbers.
They're just numbers who are just, being disappeared. And it's really powerful. And then, of course, that incredible Shatner speech. We always talk about risk is our business from Return to Tomorrow, but the better speech is in Taste of Armageddon, where he says, man's a killer species, but we have to say, I'm not going to kill today. And it's remarkable and it's great. And it's another episode like Friday's Child that suffers from its production values, but because they're on a planet for a long time, so some of the costumes are a little goofy, and
they're wearing the same hats as on Capella.
But it doesn't matter because it's so well written. Another Gene Coon, great episode.
But I just want to add one thing to that. So yes to everything that you said about the context, about the speech, and it's great. But I think the reason why that all lands, it's not because of the speech, and it's not because of the metaphor. It's what Kirk does. He could have done it without a line of dialogue, simply like, you know what? I'm going to blow this shit up, man, because you're not taking my ship, and you're going to have to live with the consequences of it, right? Like, because he does that, that is the thing that sticks, and it is such a quintessential Kirk thing to do, right? F the Prime Directive in its stupid A. I am going to unprime the hell out of this directive, and I'm going to interfere, man. I mean, there's something about it that it's not just that it's swaggering cowboy diplomacy. It's just he's calling bullshit. He's cutting the Gordian knot. And that's what's fantastic about that moment. And that's why, like, put everything else aside about that episode, about production values, about whatever, what's great about the episode, what's less great about the episode, the reason why that stands in the canon is because of that moment. It's definitive for Kirk.
And even when he orders General Order 24, it's such a great moment.
Right.
When he does that, and he's willing to go along, and basically, and also it's something that really, without showing it, illustrates the power of the Enterprise, because General Order 24 is basically to wipe out the planet, and that the Enterprise can literally from space destroy the entire planet. And you're like, oh my God.
If that's 24, I want to know what 23 is.
25 is right out.
And they did that in the Mirror one. They
annihilate the Hawkins.
Well, they were going to, yes.
Where they're going through, let's see who we are in this universe. They go the extermination of rebel colonists and stuff.
Yep, no, absolutely. And then the other episode you mentioned is Miri. Miri, also not an episode that I love, but it's beautifully directed, and it's shot on the 40 acres backlot, and so historically it's really interesting in terms of seeing those sets that were in so many other movies and TV shows. But it also is just beautifully directed. And you don't often see that in TV of the era because they had so few shooting days, so that these guys were mostly traffic cops. But occasionally on the original Star Trek, Ralph Sinetsky, John Ehrman on The Empath, and on Miri, you see it just really well-directed television. And that was really cool. There's that one shot where it goes through the glass.
Right.
Of the just really terrific.
Yeah, and we see Spock walking towards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, forgive me, I just had something just unlocked for me, like in a really interesting way about A Taste of Armageddon and that choice and General Order 24. 30 years later, in For the Uniform, Sisko deciding that he's going to do basically the same thing. He's going to make the planet uninhabitable forever. And it's so fascinating to me, like that DNA, like those choices that captains make. It goes back to the question that somebody asked about what would you do, in those situations, and it's, what would we do? And the thing that's great about those characters, those captains in particular, is that I think sometimes they get the opportunity to make choices that we wish we had the wherewithal to make, but we might not be capable of. And that's why they are who they are.
It's funny because as much as I love The Next Generation, I feel Deep Space Nine is the true spiritual successor of the original series in terms of ideals and themes, as opposed to Next Gen, which I love, but it's almost it's a different show. Okay, let's keep going. You got a nice little yellow command tunic on there, so.
Yeah, with the ears. So one of my top 60 somewhere in their episodes is Voyager's Latent Image. Did you know about that one? Obviously.
Yeah, no, we know about Latent Image. It's been a while since I've seen it. Why don't you?
We're familiar with it, but
but go on.
we're Trek.
Try to obey.
So
the premise of the episode is the doctor starts developing glitches, and he eventually finds out that part of his memory has been deleted, where he was forced to choose between saving one of two crewmen and chooses his friend Harry Kim, instead of the other one. So he's having ethical problems with that and glitching out. And Janeway's initial solution is delete the memory, and it's gone. And what I think kind of speaks to me about that one is, okay, she went with the quick solution, but it's not working. And Seven
She went
of
all
Nine,
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind on him.
yeah, Seven of Nine eventually argues with her that you need to let him process through this,
right,
as you did with me to regain
needs
my
his pain.
humanity. Yeah. So I just loved that one. That was one that when it initially aired, I went, it's okay.
But you came to appreciate it.
Yeah, I
over
came to
time.
appreciate it a lot later. As I grow older, I appreciate different
Well,
things.
isn't that the way interesting the way Star Trek episodes evolve? Like maybe stuff you didn't like when you were younger, you come to appreciate more.
Like Threshold.
And maybe some of the episodes you really liked maybe resonate less because they're sort of more sophomoric or
Yeah, I
silly.
don't know. Sometimes, yeah.
like City on the Edge of Forever.
No.
No,
But
one
that's
hasn't.
interesting about Latent Image, because Latent Image is, in a way, it's akin to an episode I don't particularly like that they really like, Requiem for Methuselah. At the end, Spock erases Kirk's memory of Reyna, the android. I don't buy it because I don't buy that he fell in love with her that hard and it meant that much to him. But the idea is it shows how much Spock cares for Kirk, that he would take away his pain. And Latent Image, I think, is a very interesting examination of like trauma. And, it's what Kirk says in 5. You can't take it away with the,
Can't take away my pain. I need my pain.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's interesting. That's a good episode. So interesting. So many of those episodes where it's 7 of 9 or the Doctor are really, in most cases, some of the best episodes, or at least the most intriguing episodes.
Yeah, the non-humans are the most human of all.
And that's why the addition of Jerry Ryan was so great to Voyager, because it just gave them their Spock and their Odo and their Data. And
She would make a great Enterprise captain. If only they gave her a show.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
So when I was a little kid, there was like all kids, we get sick, and I had a really high fever, and I had to stay home from school.
And you watched Threshold.
No.
He only imagined it. It never existed.
No way. But my dad, he had me laid down on the couch and tucked me in a blanket and a pillow stuffed, keep me warm, waiting for my fever to break. And I think he decided to show me Star Trek because he's like, yeah, this could be appropriate for a 7-year-old child to watch. It's it'll be fine. And it was. But I think the episode that you first showed me was Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Mm-hmm.
And, as a 7-year-old kid, you always you're primed to always see the happy ending, that everyone's going to come out okay. And I think what was interesting was that was one of the first times as a kid where I was yeah, Kirk survives. Barely.
But just barely, yeah.
Just barely.
And they're pretty freaking far from okay.
They're very far from okay. And not only that, he loses a friend in a way that was very creepy. It was a very creepy thing that happened to his friend that is almost unexplainable.
Right.
And as a kid, it didn't give me nightmares or anything, obviously, because it wasn't that kind of show. But it kind of unnerved me, and it made me kind of feel bad for these characters. And I think one of the big strengths of Star Wars not Star Wars.
I've done that too.
That's down the hall.
One of the big strengths of Star Trek is that through every season, new iteration, this has been consistently true, is that the people who do the writing and the people who do the acting, everyone that is a part of this, they're very sincere. And I think that's what also makes it stand out from other, space and sci-fi shows at that time, especially the original, was that it took itself seriously. There was no like winking at the camera or anything like that. It's like they're playing this as real people. This is really happening to them. We're going to go all in sincere. We're not going to make this into a joke. And you feel that, especially in those important first few episodes.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you because I thought that was a tremendous articulation of why that episode resonates. I think also the reason you weren't scared and it was appropriate for a 7-year-old was because you never had to interview Gary Lockwood on stage.
That's right.
Because if you heard our episode with Gary Lockwood, that is not appropriate for anyone of that age.
By the way, I will tell you, just in case, just to caveat that, Gary Lockwood is a dude. I mean, he is awesome. I love Where No Man Has Gone Before even more now that I know that Gary Lockwood kicks ass. And if I ever get into a bar fight, I want 90-year-old Gary Lockwood.
Well, bar fight with an orangutan, apparently.
Hell yeah.
But that's so interesting because it is a show that at 7 years old, you could understand loss without it feeling tragic, but still understanding the concept that you can win but still lose, that he lost his best friend, that he barely comes out of it, and he survives because the greater good is saving his crew, saving his ship. But it's so interesting.
Do you think that explanation is worth a CD set?
Oh, well, if Darren thinks so. Look,
I would know the answer to any of those trivia questions. I'm so sorry.
Well, no, but here's
I've got a trivia question for her. Okay. What was the first episode of Star Trek that you saw?
Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Well, that's right. That's correct.
Wait. I got one more question. Now, this is a tough one.
Oh, no.
Do you have a CD player?
I do, actually.
Oh, then here you go. The Star Trek collection from La La Land Records. Enjoy. It's a really great collection. But it does not have Where No Man Has Gone Before on there from Alexander Courage. But that is maybe a great episode, but not a great score. Yes,
How dare you?
Please.
This is a little tall for me.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Oh, Pat, you're slacking. You were so
favorite-
into it, and then you stopped.
My favorite episode is a real classic, Amok Time, because I started watching Star Trek in my freshman year of college, and I kind of just put it on in the background. It was kind of like an after school special to me. I would just put it on after class. And then I feel like Amok Time was the first episode where I really sort of started locking into Star Trek. And I was like, wait, this is really good. And I really that episode for me was where I started to see the characters' relationships, especially between obviously Kirk and Spock, but also Bones and Kirk was really, I don't know, it just really defined those relationships for me. And it made the show really more interesting to me than it was before. And I was like, hold on, now I have to go back and rewatch everything else. And I have to start paying attention more because this is really good. And that episode was just so much fun. I don't know. And it was so serious too. And Spock's speech at the end about Kirk and the only time we see Spock smile is in that episode. And I just love it.
It was gas.
It's such a spectacular episode. And I obviously none of us are old enough to have seen it in the first run. I can only imagine Star Trek getting renewed after the first season, which was not a fait accompli, and turning on the TV to watch the second season, and that being the first episode. Because we talk about Star Trek being a family, but there is one of the best episodes of the Troika. But you see, the sacrifice that Kirk's willing to make for Spock, and McCoy being caught in the middle, and just Vulcans being Vulcan, and T'Pring's sort of devious plan for how to get what she wants.
One of the best scenes in that episode is just the three of them, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, in the turbo lift. And Spock says, obviously, you've deduced my problem, and there is a ceremony that we get to bring our closest friends. And I request Captain Kirk to be there, and I also request McCoy. And that sort of ties everything together, and it's really, you can see him struggling to admit this, that McCoy is his friend.
Means something to him, yeah.
But it's so great.
By the same token, when he's called out by T'Pau, it's just our rituals here for Outworlders, they are not Outworlders.
Yeah, they are my friends.
I am permitted this. He puts his foot down and
Yeah.
he says, I'm allowed this. Doesn't matter if they're outside the
Yeah, shut the hell up.
Well, and
He doesn't care if there's a band named
and
after
Celia
her.
Lofsky, who plays T'Pau, is one of the great guest stars in Star Trek history. She carries herself with this royal, regal bearing, and you can see when he says, "Oh, that's all Vulcan in one package," that she projects that, right? And it's a matriarchal society, and she's powerful and she's wise, and it's just really fantastic. And that set is extraordinary, and what? And McCoy outwits everyone. And McCoy ultimately, the country bumpkin, right? He's smarter than everybody. That's no Triox compound. And the score, how could we not, we don't have any more CDs, by the way, but the score is so sensational. Dun, 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 which has been in everything from the Cable Guy to, it's been parodied and all this stuff. But, like the Doomsday Machine, it's one of these cues that anyone who's even remotely a Star Trek fan can hum and knows. And whenever you're talking about, combat, and that fight scene is great. It's just a great episode. It's such a good choice that represents the things that are best about Star Trek. Now, Patty's like going like this.
I love the ritual going into it. Just when he's like in the mood and the guys have got those bells that are going on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
In the mood is a hell of a way to describe Ponfar.
The whole vibe
the whole
is crazy.
Thing, the whole thing is that we've never really seen Vulcan, and outside little bits of here, and we really got. It really sets up a gravitas of wow, this whole society and they have their rituals, they have their ways. It really felt like the first time we saw a true alien culture.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, too, it actually takes the Vulcans down a peg.
Well, that's why it's such a great marriage, the writing. You have a really well-known science fiction author, Teddy Sturgeon, and then DC Fontana comes and does the rewrite and just makes it Star Trek. And that's why so much of the original Star Trek is so good, because you have these great sci-fi writers coming up with these incredible ideas like Harlan and Robert Bloch and Teddy Sturgeon, but then somebody like DC Fontana or Gene Kuhn or Gene Roddenberry or Johnny Meredith Lucas, who then take these great concepts and make them Star Trek. And that's such a great thing, and that's why the series is so glorious.
Here's a little bit of trivia from Amok Time. Celia Lofsky's husband was Peter Lorre.
Yeah.
I mean, how big a connection to old Hollywood is that? That's truly amazing.
I would have liked to have seen him in Star Trek.
He would have been great.
He'd have been great for
you had Elijah Cook in Court Martial. Anyway, great choice.
My name is Harry Mudd.
It's such a great way. And obviously, this is a conversation that will be continuing all throughout the year. And if you want to hear more conversations like this, or even if you don't, you can tune into Inglorious Treksperts every Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're now also on YouTube, where we have the video podcast. But if you're driving to work and you just want to throw on a podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or you can watch us if you're not sick of our ugly mugs on YouTube. But this has been great. This was a delightful, and we couldn't have done it without your participation. So that was awesome. Thank you. It's going to be a great year, and hopefully we'll be back to talk more Star Trek next year it'll be the 61st anniversary year, because the 60th will be over. But it's hopefully going to be a very exciting year. We're going to be celebrating on Inglorious Treksperts, and of course at Galaxy Cons throughout the country, and Star Trek Las Vegas in August. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope we'll see you tomorrow. And we're back.
Yay.
We're back from St. Louis. We meet me in St. Louis. By the way, we were going to do a 4:30 movie panel, which didn't come to pass, but we were going to pick our best our pick for movies. Meet Me in St. Louis week, which would have been movies that took place in Missouri. So Missouri. Let's call the whole thing off. Darren, what would your pick have been?
I was going to pick Waiting for Guffman.
Oh yeah, that's a good pick.
Takes place in the small little town of Blaine, Missouri.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Finished training for the day?
Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Yeah, that would have been my pick for Steve Melching, but I'm not surprised you picked it. What about you, Ashley?
I know you guys thought that I was going to pick Roadhouse, but because I would
because it's you,
because it's me, because I love Roadhouse. But my pick would have been Adam Wingard's home invasion thriller, You're Next.
Oh, that's interesting. Didn't see that one coming.
See, Wednesday.
Wow, that's really interesting. Okay. My pick probably would have been, well, I've been trying to pick The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford for years. And it's always Bridesmaid, Never the Bride. And it will be again, because my pick would have been Up in the Air, the Jason Reitman film with George Clooney and Vera Farmiga. And I think I love that movie. I think that movie is great. And thinking about it, I want to watch it again. I haven't watched it in a while, and I forgot how good that movie is.
So we would have saved Roadhouse for Friday?
I don't know. What would that have been our pick for Friday? What do you think? Roadhouse? Maybe.
It's tough. You know what? I would have gone with National Lampoon's Vacation, but it only has one scene in St. Louis, and it's not very.
It still counts.
I guess it still counts, but it's not very appealing to St. Louis.
What I would have gone? I would have gone with Kurt Russell and Escape from St. Louis, because you know what? Right. That movie was filmed in St. Louis. It doesn't look like New York at all.
You mean Escape from New York?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, Escape from St. Louis, because
Duke of
that
St.
does not
Louis,
look like New York at all.
One.
It does not look like New York. It looks like St. Louis. It looks like a second-rate New York. And that was one reason why I never loved Escape from New York as much as I should on paper, because I never believed it was New York. And
fair.
I mean, other than some stuff they got, B-roll they got at the Trade Center, there's no New York in that movie. It's all St. Louis. But I don't know. I don't know what our movie would have been. Ugh. Not that there's anything wrong with Toronto. I'm just saying I hate when Toronto doubles for New York.
No, because they can't possibly double for New York. Toronto, cities in Canada are terrible at doubling for cities in America.
Yeah, I know. When they use Vancouver to double for New York, it's like, come on. And it's always the taxis and the police cars that give it away. They never look anything like New York taxis.
It's like mayonnaise doubling for ice cream. It's like, what is that?
Darren, we had another meal after Ashley.
Speaking of mayonnaise,
headed off.
We did. We went to a place called Sauce on the Side.
See, mayonnaise. And by the way, also
no mayonnaise. There's no mayonnaise.
It's a calzone place, and I got to tell you, man, I haven't had gluten in a long time, and I probably shouldn't have. Food was great. Don't get me wrong; it was a great.
You were a glutton for gluten.
But man, I hadn't had gluten in so long, and it just fucking killed me. But it was really good. I mean, I was like one of those times, like sometimes when you cheat on something and you think, oh my God, why did I do that? This is one of those times where it was like, it was worth the pain because it was really good.
Eve, it's not a cheat.
But I really enjoyed it. And it was, it was a little casual eatery near the hotel. And
it was really near the hotel.
Yeah. And we went with, the lovely Hazel Honeysuckle and her husband,
and Mr. Honeysuckle.
Mr. Honeysuckle.
And it was a very nice evening. And so speaking of Honeysuckle, her Kickstarter did great. And I know she's working hard on a new book. And speaking of Kickstarters, if you're a fan of George Lucas and the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, it's not too late to support Peter Holmstrom and Daniel Noah on their Kickstarter about the lost age of George Lucas. So you want to check that out. I think it's going to be something really cool. And definitely support Peter and Daniel, who are scholars of the Lucas oeuvre.
And since you made it a point to mention the tragic death of Diane Keaton.
Oh, geez, don't go there. We weren't going to talk about this, son of a bitch.
I do want to mention another amazing artist who passed away today.
Good. I'm glad you're going with this instead of where I thought you were going.
No, Drew Struzan, who obviously did so much for movie poster art over the years. He was one of a kind, and I'll tell you, he retired a couple years ago because of his condition, and it's really a tragic loss to the movie world and the art world, and to the movies that we loved.
Drew Struzan belongs on the Mount Rushmore
almost all of them.
Of movie artists, along with Bob Peake, Amzell, Robert McGinnis. I mean, these are the legends. They're the Mount Rushmore, and it's such a loss. He's such a talent. It's such a genre of a passion for the genre, and he really is. Our childhood is wrapped up in all those gorgeous images that he created. And
I have one of his one sheets on my wall.
But it's another reason, that we have to do everything we have to destroy one of the most pernicious diseases, afflictions, which is Alzheimer's. And it's just, we've lost so many people to this condition, and it's just another tragic loss. Very, very, I'm so glad you mentioned Drew.
I have nothing else to say.
Well, I thought that was a moment of silence.
I thought it was a moment of silence.
If you're not familiar with him, look him up on the net, and you will see how many of these memories he helped contribute to.
You're talking about memories.
I am.
He did the Blade Runner, the good Blade Runner poster, not the original one sheet. And then I was going to say, I thought you were going to mention when you said people we've lost this week. So we find out 5 minutes before we go on stage for the Buffy panel that Diane Keaton has passed away. And of course, I'm absolutely besides myself because I love Diane Keaton. And so about halfway through the Buffy panel, we're talking about God knows what. Genius that I am said, so how does everybody feel about Diane Keaton passed away? What's your favorite Diane Keaton movie? And an audible gasp goes up from the audience. No one knew. Charisma looks like she's on the brink of tears. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm the asshole. Apparently I am, because I should have never mentioned it. But if it's on my mind, it's on my tongue, and it was just sort of like, fuck, I should never bring it up. It just brings the panel to a screeching halt. But I couldn't get it out of my mind. It was like the whole panel. I'm thinking, oh, Diane Keaton died. This is so sad. It was an abortion, Michael. An abortion. Anyway, there you go. I think this was enough conversation. A little less conversational and more action, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to say before we start to wrap up?
We went to a pretty good Mexican place when we got there, but that was it.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah.
Rosalitas.
Yeah,
Rosalitas. Yeah, based on the Springsteen song. No,
it only took us 30 minutes to walk 5 minutes.
Oh my God, we got so lost. It's
That's
amazing.
Spanish for Little Rosa.
Rosebud. What?
Rosalitas was really good.
It was.
And the service was good, and it was close. I would have gone back, but you were gone, and I was with Darren, and there was no way I was going to a Mexican restaurant with Darren. Mexican. I didn't want to hear about, I hate Mexican food.
He's a Mexican.
It was, he's a Mexican. I was Mexican. But that we had a lovely lunch there. That was really good. Okay. So please rate and review Inglorious Treksperts today, wherever you listen to podcasts. Yeah, it's important because it brings other people to the show. And we just got a really nice, you want me to read it? We got a really nice, I'm going to read you. This was really nice. Here, somebody wrote something.
Somebody wrote something.
People write it. We got a lot of reviews. It shows how many people must listen to the podcast, because you can tell, like when a show has a lot of reviews, that people listen to it. When show doesn't, it's like, okay, nobody listens to that show. Okay. Here we go. So It's so funny because we have mostly 5 stars, and then you've got a couple people like then you got a few like 1 stars because people hate us, which I understand. Right. I'd probably hate me too if I wasn't me. Okay, top-notch podcasting. I just found this gem within the last month and have been binging all the episodes from the beginning. I thoroughly enjoy the content they put out, that's us, and the camaraderie they present it with. Their reverence for TOS has drawn me into watching through the original series with fresh eyes. I love listening to them. Well, thank you.
That's nice.
Lit Wolf.
Thank you, Wolf. Isaac Altman. Oh, no.
No.
Not Isaac.
No. As opposed to MJ Sladen, who said they seem to primarily want to talk about the original series, the motion picture of the Wrath of Khan, and they'll look for any possible angle to do it. 1 star. So I just want to say you're wrong, sir or ma'am. We actually talk about Deep Space Nine too.
Yeah, we do. See?
Yeah. So there.
We're broad.
Listen to another podcast if you don't like it. That's fine. There's plenty.
The Strange New World.
Go on out. Find what you want.
GFU.
This is AGFU, and welcome.
All right, that's Trekspert. See you next week.
You can also subscribe on Spotify at TrekspertPlus.com. You'll get bonus episodes, early commercial-free drops, and more. Inglorious Treksperts, a production of the Treksperts Podcast Network. Altman, Dochterman, and Miller are executive producers. Peter Armstrong, Brian Mix, producers. Mark Rivera is our audio sound mixer. John Carney is our social media manager. Inglorious Treksperts is copyright 2025 by Treksperts Plus. So don't miss it. You can listen wherever you listen to podcasts or now watch on video on Spotify and YouTube. Very exciting stuff. So on that note, there's only one thing left to say because Lucy Lackey, Dalton Lackey, told me if she had one criticism of the show, and I had to really pull it out of her because she did not want to criticize the show, but she loves it so much. She said, sometimes the endings go on too long. Yeah. I said, okay, we'll see what we can do about that, but not this week, apparently. Anyway, keep on trekking ingloriously, of course. Engage.